Do you feel like shit too?
Hey, thanks. It's all your fault, because yes, I kind of do.
I'll tell you what, I bet you feel as good about it as I did when your brother gave it to me and then took a 10-day vacation. It was like you're driving yourself all next week.
I forgot that. He really did. You got a cold. You got his cold, and then he is on vacation for 10 days. I am regretting the fact that my ENT appointment is scheduled for November. I'm wishing I scheduled it sooner because, with my luck, this cold is going to spawn into something that lasts for months. You know, the last time I had a doctor look up my nose and the first thing they said was literally, that's a lot of blood. And I said, oh, that's good to know. I had an appointment scheduled, but then I ended up going to Texas for a funeral, and then my sinus issues cleared up again. So now I'm kind of playing the waiting game of like, okay, I have an appointment scheduled because guaranteed I'm going to have problems come November. Like, I have every November for years now. Every fall into winter.
It's
but
that dry racist air in Texas. Cleared it right up.
No, it was actually horrible while I was in Texas. But it cleared up within like a week or two after getting back, and I couldn't get into an appointment soon enough. So,
hi, I'm Chris.
And I'm Jeff, and welcome to the Sound Judgment Podcast,
where every episode we'll be discussing all of the important musical topics, from reviews to which member of Motley Crue is the most vile.
I'm gonna judge the officials. I'm gonna judge all the judges. It's gonna take you people years to recover from all my opinions.
Speaking of Texas and racism, what are we talking about today, Jeff?
Speaking of racism, Chris, we went to go see Pantera together.
We did. I'll tell you what, it was the most important reunion that I've been a part of, by which I mean, I haven't gone to a concert with you since before COVID.
Oh my god, you're right! Because you know what? You're right, because any concert I've gone to, like, since 2020, it's all been not stuff you would go to put it simply.
There have been shows we've talked about going to, but we didn't end up going to any of them.
And we ended up not going. Oh my god, you're right. The last show we went together would have been Starkill.
Yep.
In, like, what was that, January of 2020 or whatever?
Before the pandemic, before even the podcast. So this is our first one.
Our first
concert review.
Together. Honestly, I have to say, that was just concert aside, which we're gonna get to.
Yeah,
it was really nice getting, that group of people together.
Yes,
there was my brother, who's part of the same social circle, and then a couple other good friends of ours who were celebrating their 10th anniversary at that point. Actually, it's a crowd that we used to go to concerts together fairly frequently, so seeing that little crowd of people together was really, really awesome. I had that weird moment in the middle of Pantera's set where, like, I'm standing there, you're on one side of me, our buddy is on the other side of me, my brother's behind me, and I'm just like, this is such a weird, like, almost bonding moment. Is what it feels like. Like, this is the kind of thing I'm gonna look back on and be like, yeah, those were the days, man.
Yeah, fuck Pantera, we got the band back together.
That's kind of how it felt. Oh, it was so nice. No, okay, so, on to the actual topic, though. Yeah, we went to go see Pantera in their current form, as they are still calling themselves Pantera. Stating the obvious, Pantera was a 4-person band. Half of the band has since died. Most famously, guitar player Dimebag Darrell was shot on stage at a show in Ohio, not with Pantera, with a band called Damage Plan. He was shot and killed on stage by a lunatic.
An angry Pantera fan.
By an angry fan.
I mean, what a way to kill a reunion. I'm mad that your band broke up. I'ma kill you.
Well, obviously, there's a lot more going on with that man than just that. Like, there's some other issues.
At a show your brother was supposed to be at, right?
Yeah, so because Damage Plan, I want to say, played in Pittsburgh like a week previously, and for whatever reason, I don't recall, he couldn't make it. But then a buddy of his they were supposed to go to the show in Ohio. It was only, a couple hours away. Going to a concert in Ohio was not out of the realm of possibility for us here. I'm trying to recall who the friend was and I'm not gonna drop names obviously, but like if it's the person if it's the person I'm remembering it was, they were just like kind of one of those like flaky people anyway, and then just like kind of didn't show up. Because I remember I was not a Pantera or Damage Plan fan. I'm not even sure I knew the name Dimebag Darrell at the time. But I do remember coming home from school and my brother saying like something like, dude, this guy was shot and murdered on stage last night. I was supposed to be there. Like, holy shit. Honestly, it's one of those weird, like, oh God, I don't want to use the phrase dodged a bullet, but like, I feel like it's better that way.
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't know if I would have wanted to go to that.
To be it there, yeah.
I don't know if I want to watch a man get shot and murdered on stage. So Dimebag Darrell, guitar player, was shot and murdered on stage in 2000. Was that 4 or 5?
2004.
2004. I knew I was in high school, but I couldn't picture exactly where I was.
When he was killed, I knew like all of 1 or 2 Pantera songs, because 2004 was the year that I was like getting into metal.
Okay, I may have recognized a couple songs at the time, but I didn't know who they were. Like, it was one of those moments of like, dude, did you hear Dimebag died? And I'm like, I don't know who that is. Like, I distinctly remember saying, like, I don't know who that is.
It was probably like, yeah, that Walk guy to me, you know?
Yeah, probably something like that. I feel like Walk was the first song of theirs I knew. So if anything, that's how I would have known him, was like the Walk guy. But yeah, so then Dimebag's brother, who was the drummer of the band, Vinnie Paul, he passed away in 2018. It was like not long ago. And now he died of just like health complications. It was just, I want to say he had a heart attack or something more along those lines.
Heart disease.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I mean, I had the right idea. The right organ. So we have two members of the band, happen to be brothers. They have both since passed away. So we are left with vocalist Phil Anselmo.
A divisive figure.
I'm positive we've spoken about before. And then bassist Rex Brown? Rex Brown, thank you, Rex Brown.
His legacy in the band is that of his last name, just not very interesting. Maybe the Ringo.
He fills the role well.
He fills the role.
Like, he is the perfect member. He is the perfect bassist for the band for what they do. Fine.
Yeah.
So filling in for these tours, these late tours, on drums, you're gonna have to fill me in on his name. Well, it's Charlie something.
Charlie Benante from Anthrax.
Okay, interesting. And then filling in on guitar, taking place of Dimebag, is Zakk Wylde. And you know, from what I understand, Dimebag and Zakk were in real life, like, they were already buddies. Zakk Wylde's style is similarly over the top in Weedley, while also being able to maintain a really good groove. So I think most people, if a reunion of some sort was going to happen, Zakk Wylde is the person most people would have wanted to fill the role anyway.
I mean, I like, just to be blunt, Zakk Wylde was the guy that the internet wanted. It doesn't matter if you found someone who could do it better. The collective metal community decided decades ago that he was the only acceptable replacement.
And from what I understand, it's been brought up numerous times anyway. Like, I believe when it was something I'll get to later on. According to Zakk Wylde, when it was brought up many years ago, the idea of doing a tribute show, Zakk had come out and said, like, yeah, you know, you guys tell me if you want to do it, like, I'm in. You let me know when and where, kind of thing.
For another controversial point, it had been brought up to Vinnie Paul doing it with Zakk Wylde, and he stated that there was going to be no Pantera reunion without Dimebag.
Yeah, which, God, we've talked about that whole ordeal before. Is, you know, should you continue a band without certain members, or you have the whole like Sepultura issue where it's like founded by 2 brothers, neither of which are in the band. Like, there's a lot of I question a lot about should this have happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the elephant in the room that there's like 22 years of baggage between these people, where they broke up on bad terms. Dimebag died without like really making amends. Vinny didn't really want to work with Phil, and he like resisted a Pantera reunion. Phil and Rex, the two that are part of the reunion are the ones that stayed tight the whole time, I believe.
Okay.
It was kind of like Diamond, Vinny, and then Phil and Rex.
Let's call it as it is. Phil, more than anyone, Phil is a controversial individual. Now there's video of Dimebag saying some, throwing around some racial slurs in a very light-hearted manner, which I am not here to defend the use of any racial slurs, but I am going to just state it for the people who don't seem to understand this is, even though it wasn't that long ago, times were different, and I don't think some people like to accept that, making gay jokes or even racist jokes was a lot more acceptable even just 20 years ago. If you go to the early 2000s or 90s, it wasn't seen the way it is seen today. Now, I think we are moving in the right direction. I think this is for the best, but I have been shown nothing to tell me that Dimebag was genuinely a racist person. I think he was a person who was a part of the culture he grew up in. I do not think he immediately hated people for the color of their skin. I do think he probably had some tendencies that geared towards racist more than maybe mine personally do. But I am also a product of, 20 years later and in a different place. So, call it as it is. Phil Anselmo, however, has been on stage and literally said things like white power.
Done a Nazi salute and things like that, yeah.
Phil does not shy away, or at least in the past has not shied away from things that even 15, 20 years ago would have come across as pretty blatantly racist. And unfortunately, there's a large fan base of bands like Pantera who, case in point, there was a man in the little area out in the lawn, seats like we had, who had a tattoo on his arm that had the double lightning bolts, which, sure, maybe it was a Harry Potter reference or something, but I'm gonna throw this out there. The double lightning bolt for most people doesn't stand for Harry Potter. It's a Nazi insignia.
Someone should have vulgar display of power covered that man.
I'm going to assume that man who was near us is loud, proud, white nationalist. And there is unfortunately a decent bit of that.
Yeah, unfortunately there are people who will decide both that they will and won't go to the show due to things that the band have said, done, or been affiliated with.
Yes. Now another big one is, the quote unquote rebel flag, the Confederate flag. Dimebag had a custom guitar. One of the paint jobs on this guitar was the rebel flag, which, again, sorry to people who are younger than we are, but back in the 90s, the Confederate flag was not synonymous with racism. It was synonymous with just trying to be edgy, and it was synonymous with being born in the South. Very, very seriously. I am not exaggerating when I say that flag did not mean you were racist 25 years ago.
It was literally a bit of a red flag, but you could just like Dukes of Hazzard.
Or Lynyrd Skynyrd, who famously used that flag for a long time, even though, again, the original members were, by any real account, not racists. They were a bunch of hippies. But, unfortunately, they also attracted a large fan base of certain types of people. So, okay. So the band itself, we've covered the band, unless you have anything else to say about them being racist.
No. I think we can move on from being racist. The only other deal breaker is, as we covered, it can feel a little gross knowing that Vinny and Dime are not only dead, but their likeness is being printed onto t-shirts, and we've got these great taglines that say, "For the fans, for the brothers, for the legacy." But I'll say this, if there's any lack of respect in the marketing of this tour, there is none in the performance.
That's a very awesome way to put it, actually. Yeah, so I did forget to mention, good point. The merchandise was a little debatably exploitative. It really is banking on Dimebag's image more than anything. But I do think the performance itself, and I really do think the guys who are up on stage, I think they are in it for the right reason.
Absolutely.
It felt very genuine. And Zakk Wylde, for all of his faults and for being the crazy man he is, I do think deep down Zakk Wylde is just trying to be a good person, right? He's one of those guys who I believe him when he says that, like, he's trying to be honest here.
I think Zakk Wylde is absolutely in it for the right reasons. And Charlie Benante, as well as the rest of the band Anthrax, were good friends of Dimebag. They had him on albums. They like featured each other. They went on tour together. Anthrax and Pantera, during the time that Anthrax was doing groove metal with a singer that wasn't Joey Belladonna, were actually pretty tight, from what I understand. So
okay,
while Charlie makes sense from like a friendship point of view, I gotta say I don't think he's the person that anyone would have picked, but holy shit, he crushed it.
But he fit well. I mean, I think he did a more than a serviceable job. I think he sounded great. In fact, I think the whole band sounded great. Now I know you had some complaints about Phil in general, although quite frankly, so Phil once upon a time had one hell of a range. But he also had a range that was not sustainable. You can hear it in the recordings that he was just shredding his voice day in and day out. So, drugs aside, age aside, he wasn't going to keep the range that he had in the early 90s.
Well, Jeff, Phil being the guy who can make and break this whole thing, I just want you to know that while sleeveless Pantera shirt is like a common descriptor of a certain kind of person for me, Phil wearing a sleeveless Pantera shirt in his own shirt was kind of funny to me. Just wanted to rip on him a little bit before I start genuinely complimenting this man, Jeff. Because if this is Phil trying to get back in the public's good graces, this is a great beginning of a redemption arc.
I hope so.
He put his all into this performance. God damn it, his shouting vocals sounded great.
Yeah, his screams are awesome these days.
His black metal screams are much better than when I saw him a few years ago. He sounded like he really got into shape for this, and for the most part, I think he sounded fantastic. There's normal age things that you expect. He gets a little winded. He can't do the high screams. He can't do his upper range. My dreams of him doing Shattered are shattered.
Yeah, it's never gonna happen.
But he also picked a fairly good set list. He didn't try to do anything crazy. He knows he hasn't been able to sing Cemetery Gates since 1994, so they played some of it on a tape with a tribute video package to Dime and Vinny. That was very good. Yeah. For the most part, I'm going to say like 80% of Phil's performance I was very happy with.
There's a butt coming.
You know what? No. I'm going to bump it up. I'm going to say 90.
Okay. There's still a butt coming.
Because the set list was very solid. No, but my butt is that I'm going to like nitpick as a fan now.
Okay.
That like when they did This Love specifically and Planet Caravan, which is like my second least favorite Pantera song to begin with. I love it when Black Sabbath does it. Doesn't fit for Pantera with me. Bad enough that it's on their worst album with their actual number one worst song, which is Good Friend and a Bottle of Pills. Bad fucking song. Having said that, it's just that when they play the song, I'm used to the album version. I don't know if you know this, Jeff. I was a huge Pantera fan in high school. I've listened to This Love enough times that it's burned in my brain. And I can hear that they're playing it relatively in the same key as the album. Maybe, a little bit up or down. But he sings in the voice that he does with Down Now, which is much deeper.
Yeah. The man's speaking voice, I imagine. No, I haven't looked up interviews or anything with him from like the 90s, but his speaking voice is down.
Mm-hmm.
Like the dude has a deep booming voice in general, and I'm sure a lot of that is actually just due to damage to his voice itself. But okay, so unlike you, I actually really like Pantera's cover of Planet Caravan. So I think it sounded totally fine. Do I think he sounds great trying to do like clean vocals? No, he doesn't have a really wide range. Luckily, the fact that he sings the song an octave lower than Ozzy did, it fits in his range pretty well. It's not a difficult song.
No.
But also considering the fact that that's not the majority of what Pantera does, I'm not too concerned with it.
I'm gonna be real, because I'm getting back into nerd shit now. Setlist bullcrap. But they did Suicide Note Part 2. It was the only song they did from The Great Southern Trendkill, which is... Okay, if I'm gonna, like, disqualify the hair metal albums, it's my second favorite Pantera album.
Oh, okay. Unexpected.
Cowboys from Hell and then Great Southern Trendkill. For real, if you've never listened to that album the whole way through, it's like, just different enough. There's a lot more thrash in it.
Okay.
Cool album. But... Suicide Note Part 2, I fucking wigged out when they played it, but they could have done, in my opinion, Suicide Note Part 1, which is... it would have not made a good tribute to Vinny and Dime, I get that. But it's an acoustic track. It's like a good thing that like Phil could take a bit of a break. And if you listen to it on the album, it's one of the songs where he started singing very deep.
Oh, okay.
If you go to the Great Southern Trendkill, and I think it's Suicide Note Part 1, I think it's like 1:18 he starts singing, and you can hear that it's much more what he does to his range now.
Okay, so I had to look up, the album was from 1996, which makes sense, because I'm assuming his voice really went through some major changes in the early to mid-90s, like 94 probably, I think is probably when he did the most... I'm assuming, again, I'm making the assumption it's damage and not like an intentional shift.
I'm pretty sure it's mostly heroin related.
I'm assuming he destroyed his voice, again, mixture of drugs and the fact that the amount of like vocal distortion is honestly unnecessary. So just to jump into the voice mechanics here, right? Most screams, like when you're hearing like a heavy metal scream of most sort, it's not as loud as you think it is, because it's not literally just someone shoving as much air out of their voice as possible, right?
It's technique.
It's technique, and a lot of times it's done in like a vocal fry, which is not unlike if you just kind of, go as low as you can until your voice kind of cracks. You just kind of get like that kind of thing. A lot of screaming is based in that kind of sound.
Yeah.
I am not entirely convinced that is the way Phil got his screams in these Pantera albums. I genuinely think it sounds like he just
went in there and pushed.
It sounds like he went in and was just like, I'm mad and I'm gonna scream. Yeah. And it sounds like it. Like he just shredded his voice.
Yeah.
Which I think sounds kind of cool, but obviously I'm never really a fan of that kind of thing.
It's not sustainable, yeah.
That being said, what we heard the other night was not that. What we heard the other night was a man who learned how to do these sounds really damn well.
How to make the same sounds seemingly safely.
Yeah, I mean, pushing your voice in any way is never like quote unquote good for your voice, but there are sustainable ways, and what he was doing sounded sustainable, right? It sounds like he learned the technique to really do this well at some point between the 90s and now. Again, I think he sounded great. Now, of course, Zakk Wylde. Zakk Wylde sounded like Zakk Wylde. I love Zakk Wylde. But I also love the fact that I made this comment at the concert. I have seen Zakk Wylde now twice. I have not seen him perform any of his own original music. I have never seen Zakk Wylde with Ozzy. I have not seen him with Black Label Society. I have seen Zakk Wylde do the Zack Sabbath tribute, which is just him doing Black Sabbath songs, and I've now seen him do Pantera. That being said, I love Zakk Wylde's style. Does he overplay? Is he over the top? Does he wheedle too much? Does he use too many pinch harmonic squeals? Yes to everything. I love 100% of it.
I'm gonna be honest, as long as Zach Wilde is not doing a 5-minute guitar solo exhibition, I'm a happy guy.
I think you and many people share that sentiment.
I have seen Black Label Society twice. The first time was at a festival. It wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. I saw them again open for Judas Priest. They let him have a rest of the band leaves and Zach Wilde plays by himself with a spotlight. And Jeff, you've heard this story many, many times. Zach Wilde takes front and center. He starts playing. He starts wheedling. Wheedly, whittly, whittly, whittly. I'm like, oh boy, here comes Zach Wilde. This will be a treat. He's known as a guitar god. I'm sure this will have all of the parts that a guitar solo should have. Whittly, 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 woo, woo, whittly, 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 whittly. For 5 minutes, he didn't do anything other than that.
No, Zach Wilde subscribes to the Yngwie Malmsteen mentality of more is more.
Yes.
Less isn't more is more. That being said, I also personally am a big fan of more is more. So, as someone who also is known to overplay whenever possible, I love this. Like, this is a world that I am all on board with. I love Zach's style. I love the fact that he is basically nothing but like a blues rock guitar player on steroids. I just think his style is fantastic. I love the man.
In this setting, I actually really enjoyed it. In fact, even when he's playing most of his own music, I just don't want to see him do an exhibition ever again.
But also, the dude can groove, man.
Dude can groove. He just didn't. He did not choose to that night.
But he can, and it's absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, so Pantera put on a really great show.
A really great show.
And I do also have to throw out there, because I always find this fun. I don't have the set list they played sitting in front of me, and I did, and I don't know where I put it. I did not know most of these songs. I am not a big Pantera fan. There's a handful of songs by Pantera that I absolutely love, but I did not know most of these songs, and I went into this obviously knowing that. Like, they're one of the songs I do know, being Cemetery Gates, like, I know they're not going to perform that anymore because Phil can't.
Yeah.
So I went in knowing that I was going to recognize, I don't know, let's say 6 or 7, and I was going to know, like, 3 or 4 songs.
Yeah.
That did not change this experience from just being a really, really phenomenal show.
I mean, I can agree with that, except that I know Pantera very well, and I can bitch about things like Far Beyond Driven was vastly overrepresented. I can't believe they only played one song from Cowboys from Hell. I can't believe that they only did one song from Trendkill. I can't believe that they did one song from Reinventing the Steel, and they chose Revolution Is My Name. The UK tour got Yesterday Don't Mean Shit as the encore, and I gotta say, Revolution in My Name, more like Roncore.
Really? That's what you came up with?
That's what I came up with.
That's the joke?
That's it. But you know what wasn't a Roncore was when they did Happy Birthday to You for Rex.
I wanted to mention that. So it was, in fact, the show that we saw was on Friday the 28th of July. And Rex's birthday is officially, I believe, the 27th, if I looked it up correctly earlier.
Yeah.
So they did, in fact, they brought out a birthday cake with some candles on it. And Phil got the entire crowd of something like 16,000 people to sing Happy Birthday. And then Rex got to walk over and blow out his candles. And it was just the cutest, stupid thing I have seen in a long time.
And I gotta say, again, if Phil's going for the redemption arc, his stage banter was great. A lot of fun. He's a lot of fun.
I mean, he's still
he is a charismatic guy when he wants to be.
Yes,
really.
He's still the super macho, like, kind of edgy guy. You know, he dropped more fucks than we do, and I am frequently embarrassed by how often I curse. But he did, he's a lot. but he was oddly pleasant.
Yeah.
I do know there are cases of more recent shows where if someone has like a again like a Confederate flag, he'll call it out and say like, we don't do that anymore here, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I really do wonder, is he just like mellowing out in his old age? Did he get some therapy, or is it all PR? I have no idea. For his sake, I hope he's just genuinely becoming a better person.
I want to believe it's a little bit of all of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to. I think there's got to be some level of, after the last thing in 2005, really realizing, oh, I can't be busted for this again. There's got to be some of that in there. But I'd like to. He claims he's off alcohol completely. He's been off drugs for like a long time now, but he says he's off alcohol completely. And if he is, then that's great for him. And if he
that's great for him. Wow, so is Zach. So is Zach Wild. I didn't realize Phil was too, because Zach Wild's been sober since 2000. I want to say 9.
Well, in 2015, late 2015 was that situation where he did the thing, or maybe no, I think it was January 2015
where he did the thing, and then in I think December of that year he announced he was completely off alcohol. If that's true, that's awesome. Good for him, man. Yeah, that's awesome.
And if it was a wake-up call, that's even better. I mean, nothing like having one less shitty person in the world because they changed and not because they died.
That's very true. Again, I hope that's the case. I'm hoping he's just growing into his own a bit here.
But, I mean, again, for the fans, there's a lot of things that they did, too, that, like, you wouldn't notice. Because, like, they did... when they did I'm Broken, they played the end of another song called By Demons Be Driven. Like, just putting... Oh, okay. Just turning... Instead of just ending the song, going into a little bit of a medley, or, like, a little bit of another song, just as, like, a... I'm assuming, like, I know we're not playing everything you want to hear, but here's some of the riffs, you know what I mean? So, I mean, it was a very cool, very respectful of the music, at the very least, show. Respectful of the fans who are paying to see it, even if you can maybe say some of the reasons are a little bit hell of a show. And also, I want to throw out another thing. Lamb of God, fantastic choice of an opener.
Oh, I was gonna say, do we want to get into the opener here?
We don't have to get into it, but Lamb of God was a great choice.
So yeah, I don't have a lot to say. Other than, so I am not I do not listen to Lamb of God. I would recognize probably one song without context. Like, if you put on Laid to Rest, I would recognize that one, right?
Yeah.
I was never really a Lamb of God fan. They're not a band I really know much about, other than I know the whole issue with vocalist Randy Blythe, landing himself in jail and whatnot.
Unjustly, I would say.
Although I don't know the details. I know it was basically, you probably could explain the story real quick.
I forget the details of why exactly he did the thing, but a fan was up on stage and he wasn't getting off, and Randy kind of like shoved him off the stage, and rather than like catch him or anything, I think he either fell short of the crowd or they backed away and he like hit his head and died, basically. And it was called like manslaughter or murder over there. I think unjustly, in a post Dimebag world, speak of this situation, you can't just stay up on stage and do whatever the fuck you want. You gotta, especially at a bigger show like that. It's not, necessarily the 80s where you can fucking rock out with the band before you stage dive for 5 minutes.
Yeah. So Randy Blythe was basically charged and imprisoned for being involved in somebody's death. Legally, what phrase they use, I don't know.
In another country.
In another country, yeah. So it was also not an American thing. But that being said, so what I know about Lamb of God is really not much. I also know that I saw them open when we saw Slayer a handful of years ago.
Yeah.
So I have seen Lamb of God twice now, and I had this comment last time, and I'm going to make the same comment again now. Randy Blythe is one of the best frontmen I've ever seen.
He's incredible.
He is unreal. The dude is a machine. He's like Bruce Dickinson levels of like, he doesn't stop moving. He is all over the place. He is commanding the entire stage. And he does this really great, like, frog jump thing, right, where he jumps and his knees, like, go up to his shoulders practically, and it's gonna be a sad day when he can no longer do that, man.
At 52, he's still going.
I was gonna say, and you looked up his age, because I was not aware. The dude is 52 years old. He is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. I'm just gonna say, as, like, to back you up, as someone who's not a big Lamb of God fan, incredible live band. I think they have all of one okay album, but live they are just unreal.
Yeah, they are just such a phenomenal band. Randy Blythe is such an incredible frontman. Like I said, just incredibly commanding. The whole band is just so solid. All their music, like, it's not virtuosic in any way, but it just, like, kind of grooves and fills so much space, and they're so tight the whole time. And again, going back to Randy real quick here, I don't exactly know how to explain what it is about his style of screaming that I love, but that, like, take whatever his voice is, that is what I want in a scream.
Yeah.
Like, he is the definition of just, like, this just pierces through my ears and into my brain in just the perfect way. He's phenomenal. And then the opener was a band called Snafu.
Snafu was there anyway.
They were a really shitty version of Slayer. Like, I have nothing else to say. I have no comments otherwise. All in all, it was a great show, though. My parking space at the venue was fantastic. That is my biggest complaint about the venue outside of Pittsburgh called Star Lake something or other. Its name has changed a million times. It happens at Star Lake because there's a lake there. It is the dumbest venue in the Pittsburgh area.
By the time hear this,
it's also the only outside big pavilion or venue. So
by the time you hear this, it will change its name again.
Yeah, it has changed its name like 5 or 6 times in the time I've been going to concerts. Like, it's really kind of ridiculous. I think it's called the Pavilion at Star Lake now. It's a really dumb venue, and thank God I got a really awesome parking space, so it wasn't hell getting out of there.
So if you're on the fence, if there's a lot of people who will see this show regardless of what's going on, there's a lot of people who won't. But if you're on the fence, fantastic show for $25.
I mean, in all fairness, okay, so we had tickets for $25 because of some promotional thing, whatever going on. This is a show that I would have had no problem putting out a little bit of money for. Like, right. if it was $50, I'm still on board. It was still a phenomenal show. Would do again. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm gonna give this. Here's a Pantera reference. I give this show 13 steps to nowhere out of 13.
God, why?
Because, see, Jeff, the 13th step is... It's 12-step program, and then the 13th step is falling off the wagon.
Oh.
That's why it's 13 steps to nowhere.
Okay, I feel like that's not...
relapse.
I feel like that's not a good rating, then. I feel like that's an insult. No, 5 out of 5. Like, absolutely phenomenal. This is definitely, like... I mean, as someone who has been to, quite a few concerts. I mean, I'm certainly not holding any records here, but I've gone to more than the average number of live music performances. Like, absolutely phenomenal show. Would recommend.
Absolutely.
Chris, what else have you been listening to lately?
Music.
Pantera?
Actually, I have been listening to a bit of Pantera. It's got me.
Hey, me
in the
too,
mood.
actually.
I'll tell you what. I put on Trendkill again earlier today. Man, that's a great album. I don't care. And unrelated. Nirvana for no real reason. I don't know why.
All right. Hey, nothing wrong with that.
And Pearl Jam for some reason. I don't know why. And a lot of Down.
Now, okay. So one of those is a little bit of a problem, but like it's fine. I'm gonna let it go.
What?
You put on Pearl Jam? Like you willingly put on Pearl Jam?
I put on the best of.
All right.
What?
I mean, it's fine.
I like the greatest hits.
No, it's fine.
What? Now, where did this come from? You at least like the first, you like 10.
I like a few songs off of 10. I'm just giving you a hard time now.
What is your fucking problem?
I'm just being...
This is what we're gonna fight about this week?
We haven't fought about anything, you're right. I mean, because we've... No, it's okay. You're gonna want to fight me in a minute here.
Anyways, Jeff, listen to More Down.
I mean, genuinely, should I?
Do you not?
No.
Oh, Jeff, listen to More Down.
I don't really know Down, so okay, I guess I will.
Well, that's that's Phil's band after Pantera. That's his
band.
I
know, but like
it's
I've
a super
never
group.
Actually... Is it?
Yeah. No, it's
Is it really?
Yeah, actually, yeah. Well, yeah. If I would say that you would probably recognize most of the members' bands.
Okay, I'll accept that then.
But
I'll accept that then.
The non-metalhead might not. But
okay, I'll accept that.
Let me do the thing. We'll play the game. We'll play the game real quick. Phil Anselmo from Pantera. Actually, he's the odd man out because he's the only one not from like a doom band.
Oh, that's funny. Okay.
Pepper Keenan of Corrosion of Conformity.
Okay.
Kirk Winstein of Crowbar.
Okay.
Pat Brunders of Goat Whore.
Okay.
And Todd Strange, also Crowbar.
Okay, I know those bands. You're right. I would call those a supergroup. I'm in.
Yep, and Rex Brown was in it for a while, of Pantera.
Funny. Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
The first album, Nola, which is just, New Orleans, Louisiana.
Yeah.
If you just want to hear some, like, heavier, sludgier Black Sabbath riffs with deep voice Phil singing, that's a great album.
Okay. We'll have to do that. I will have to add that to my listening coming up.
I'm going to throw Bury Me in Smoke in the Discord while you tell me what you've been listening to.
Chris, I hope you're excited.
I'm not.
So, I've been listening to a lot of Andy Williams' Christmas albums.
Anyways, that's the podcast. It's been great.
And, hold on, I hope you're ready for this contrast here. So, because it's I kind of missed Christmas in July. I was traveling for work, so I wasn't really able to celebrate Christmas in July. So I'm going to be doing that this weekend with my girlfriend and her daughter. And so I've been on a Christmas kick, obviously, finishing out Christmas in July. But the problem is, officially, in my calendar, August 1st is the beginning of Halloween season.
Okay, you're right. You know what? I gotta say you're right because I saw a pumpkin Reese's today.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's how you know it's coming. That's how you know it's coming.
And there's some stores, like I know At Home, a friend of ours has been very excited that the store chain At Home has a couple aisles of Halloween stuff up. So yeah, officially the Halloween season has started August 1st. Which brought me into a lot of black metal. I am back on that Obtained Enslavement, who I stumbled upon last fall. Because they're just so phenomenal, man. I'm loving everything I've heard from these guys. Just, early, mid-90s black metal. Again, the vocalist, at least for a while, was Pest, who at the same time and then later went on to Gorgoroth, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So then I also stumbled upon, I've been doing a lot of this thing where I go on Spotify and I just look up an artist's name and then I search podcasts, not artists or albums, and I'm listening to a lot of interviews. And that's where I stumbled upon a couple interviews with Danny Filth from Cradle of Filth. Which, first off, I always forget he's British. Because it doesn't come through in his music at all. Second off, I cannot handle the fact that he is like such a prim, posh, proper sounding British man who literally used I'm at work listening to this podcast today, and he uses the phrase, "Oh goodness me," and I about died. Like, the dude's 30-some year career is entirely based on being terrifying to people, right? Like, he's
I remember you never forget where you are the first time you hear
yeah, exactly. Well, so that same man uses phrases like "oh goodness me," and it was absolutely phenomenal. So of course I did have to listen to go ahead.
I'd like to think he does it in like I feel I feel like kind of what's a good word? Like a fruity villain kind of way. I kind of hear him saying it like, "Oh goodness me."
That's very, very close. That is very close. I could even send you the interview. I could look up which one it was where he said it. Oh, it was so bizarre. But that did lead me to listening to a little bit of Cradle of Filth earlier, because they fall in that category to me of, like, because they're among the most popular at what they do, they get a lot of hate, right? They're like
Yeah.
effectively the Nickelback of extreme metal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's undeserved, honestly. They're a fantastic group of musicians. Danny Filth, as much as I make fun of his lyrics because it just sounds like he's like constantly looking at a thesaurus, like the dude's really intelligent. He's a great writer. I just don't care for the style of writing. It's not really my thing. But musically, for the most part, I do find Cradle of Filth very entertaining.
I think as far as that goes, it just comes down to unfortunately for them, if they were trying to win over the metal elitists, they became the hot topic black metal band.
Yeah, again, just because it just comes down to popularity, unfortunately. I mean, I looked on Spotify, they have over 500,000 monthly listeners. Like, that's crazy for that genre of music. Like, that's
this
absurd.
is the year though. We're gonna get Jeff into Dark Throne. We're gonna get Jeff into Down. We're gonna get I'm gonna make him listen to the black metal Nirvana.
The black metal Nirvana?
There's
They're called Nirvana. Okay,
they were called
duh.
Nirvana, and they
Duh.
had to change their name for legal reasons, even though I think they formed before the grunge band.
Gotcha. That's unfortunate, but I get it. But yeah, so my listening has been switching between Christmas music and black metal. So, you know.
Yep.
And obviously a little bit of the We Wish You a Metal Xmas album, just because it's fantastic.
What year did Bleach come out?
90... Oh, Bleach, 89.
Okay.
89.
This band was formed in 88. That's unfortunate.
They probably formed at the same time,
Probably.
honestly.
Yeah, around the same time, but obviously
that really is unfortunate.
no influence on each other's names, but you know, someone's got to be the popular one.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. But yeah, so Chris, happy spooky season officially.
Happy spooky season. I'm ready.
We're getting there, man.
Yes. I'm going to make a list of horror movies to watch. I'm going to do that now. Fuck you, bye.